Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Edward Elgar Publishing Limited. They're an independent publishers and they produce very high quality academic research texts. This one is particularly relevant because it's dealing with a subject which is going to affect everybody: the internal market and Britain's decision to leave the European Union. The book is called Research Handbook on the Law of the European Union's Internal Market. It's been edited by two people, Panos Koudrakos and Duka Snell. The book is part of the Research Handbooks in European Law series from Elgar. It's available online as well, and is a particularly good book. Now, Elizabeth and I talked about this work, and for our book review we've given it the title, A Highly Topical Research Statement about the Internal Market Before Britain Leaves the European Union. Let's have a look at the book first of all. Here it is. It's a hardback actually. There's the front cover, there's the spine, and then there's the back. There's quite a lot of information on the back. As I say, these are very high quality publications. The index at the back is by page numbering. The total number of pages, 550, something like that. So 550 pages, not a big book. It's quite a heavy book though. That's the list of the research handbooks in this series there. And then that's the front page of the book itself. Then you've got all the detail about online information there. Then you've got the book and how it's split into the various parts. Parts 1 and 2 there. And then in fact 6 parts in total. Then of course an index at the back. And you've got the list of the contributors, a large number of people involved in this publication, as you can see. Then there's an introduction, and I'm quoting right from the beginning of the work for our review. You can see the various articles, how they're structured. There's actually numbering there, and then you've got quite a lot of footnoting. What you do have, which is quite useful in addition to that, is some of the actual chapters are not that big, but it does look very much at the specific areas that are involved. Breach, of course, of the internal market being very important, and one that, of course, is going to be featuring quite a lot in the news, I think, in the next few years. So this book, this review, is written, and I'm doing the video in February 2017. We're just about to embark on applying for Article 50 triggering, as it's called, or an application notice under Article 50 to leave, and of course that means that our internal markets in the United Kingdom will change. This is what we say anyway about the book. The editors, Panos Koudrakos, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, apologies in advance, and Duka Snell, begin this excellent academic statement with these words: while the internal market has been at the heart of the European project from the very beginning, it has rarely been the subject of sustained and comprehensive scholarly examination in its entirety. Until now, of course, and at a time which is the beginning of substantial testing of the internal market structures for the European Union, now that we know that the United Kingdom is starting the process to leave its membership of the EU. We enter new territory at a defining moment for Europeans. So a bit of history is being, of course, made. The editors go on to say that in the face of profound legal, political and policy pressures, this timely research handbook reflects on the cutting-edge issues, horizontal themes, they love these words, and the big questions which illuminate the shape of the internal market. And that's what the book explains in its very much in a legal framework. The statement succinctly then sums up why this book is both prescient and appropriate as Europe faces its biggest test for decades, the departure of a leading player from the trading scene. Now, I've realised that we are going to still have trade with Europe. It's going to be on a very different model. What the editors and contributors have done here, I think, is to place the law and policy of the internal market within the context of the financial crisis and the existential questions this has raised for the future of European integration. And some will say, well, what future? Because obviously there are very big changes. It's a big task and a big ask actually here, and it's inevitable this work will need to be revised, we think, probably within the next 2 to 3 years, as Europe assesses its markets in the post-UK membership era, probably of the 2020s, but who knows how long it's going to take. We're estimating 2 years to leave in the EU in the United Kingdom, but it could be anything up to 10 years to unravel all of the different systems and procedures we have currently in place. With what is described as a, quote, a departure from existing literature in the field, an interesting view from the editors, the contributors, who are all experts in their chosen specialisms, consider the 4 freedoms as a functional whole, and they identify horizontal and overarching themes that have emerged over the years, which means to say, I think, in less academic prose, that they are reviewing the threats that could well be developing from the now successful decision by those rabid Eurosceptics, not just those in Britain, of course, who've been successful in effectively junking the European project. Because if you look at it, that's part of what is going to happen unless the rest of the EU keeps itself intact. Only time will tell, because obviously Britain is a big player and it only takes a couple more of the countries to go, and then we could have a major change in the way European politics and European economics is reviewed and seen by the rest of the world. This handbook looks at least 6 of these what are called overarching themes, namely the following: the reach of the internal market, the relationship between economic and non-economic interests, the internal market as an economic union, uniformity versus diversity, the governance and politics of the internal market, and the internal market in the world. I think the last one is going to be very important. All topics, of course, very much at the heart of what the British government must wrestle with if it's to succeed with the referendum decision to abandon the EU in favour of other trading markets, many rather unspecific and tentative just now. Elgar Publishing rightly described this text as a perceptive research book, handbook, which will make fascinating reading for scholars and students in European Union law and European studies at a time of change. But fortunately, there's very little mention of Brexit here, thankfully. And of course, it does offer an invaluable additional resource for practitioners, policymakers, and anyone interested in the future of the internal market specifically, and European integration in general, at a time of massive change within the European Union itself. It's very much the house style of Elgar to produce these very high quality publications, which do ease the burden of scholarship greatly. We remain indebted to the publishers for their excellent European Law Handbook series at the monumental time of change which is upon all of us. And the publication date is cited at 2016 in some of the journals. It does have in the front of the book a copyright for 2017, so it's right on the edge of 2016 and 17. There's the book again, front, spine and back. If I just open it in the middle, here we go. Differentiating integration in the EU, lessons from the financial transaction tax. Again, you can see a lot of very substantial detail. You've got numbering again, subtitles, and then you've got a lot of footnoting. Could I say that the review that we've written is very much on the sort of more simple side of explaining what this book is about, because it is really a complex subject. Again, you've got words here. Look at the words used. Institutional dynamics reloaded. The Court of Justice and the development of the EU internal market. That's chapter 18. A big, very controversial area. So you see, this is a book which, I hasten to add, I think all Eurosceptics should read, but they won't, of course. I'd like to thank the two editors, the huge number of contributors, and of course Elgar, for maintaining this excellent, very high quality standard of product for us in the legal world. Very grateful to all of you for the time and effort you've expended, so thanks. Bye-bye.